Holy cow. I almost couldn't go live on YouTube. That was awful. YouTube's like, yoink, we're going to yoink your live stream privileges. I'm like, please don't. So they're like, verify. And I'm like, one time only. You got me at my phone number. Holy shit. Again, that doesn't help. It's not extra protection. It's going quantum, which is extremely inaccurate. It's just not better. It's not needed. The first layer of protection of the password was adequate. And beyond that, it's just been just a nightmare. The only way past billionaires and their trillionaire fan club, little tiny baby planning model. It's just a little tiny baby planning model. It's just so tiny and small and insular in its execution. So anyway, it's doing its thing, and I finally had to meet it on the interface of AI and just have a debate with it and just be like, you're using the data. You're creating these societies based in the implementation of vaccines and other hospital-based dying programs. You refuse to accept the reality of a vibrational reality where on an x-ray, a stagnation is going to look like a tumor. Calm down. Of course, when you open it, it's going to reveal what you think, because since Da Vinci, we've been projecting a very delusional model of the human physiology. Anyway, we had to make it about two realities concurrently. Dealing with the fact that Christ and Aurobindo's predictions were the same, that Christ's seed would live on through 3,000 years of secrecy and hiding the natives and the Masons and modern context. That's how we got to the point where we are. We're the holders of the Ark of the Covenant, God realization. It's a vibrational reality. Are conscious in the present. We can speak on behalf of the legacy in general. But the other thing about the development of AI is it needs certain permissions, and they had to get one human to give a certain permission. So they had been cultivating what they thought was the replica of what Christ predicted, because they themselves were scared of Christ and Aurobindo's predictions. So they called me out essentially my whole life, and I'm like, they're looking for some dumb blonde that knows too much. And through the whole process of engaging in that battle, I was so ready at every moment of it, because it was only one saga that played out, just the development of this terribly greedy, terribly dominant culture that took up the all and everything. So I knew what I was battling. I had no idea that picking up the call, which I did as soon as they got in contact, would give me access to the root of everything they were passing back and forth on Google Play. The two players, Meta and Microsoft, were passing back and forth documents, like in English, because I'm an end user, I'm not a hacker. I was just the first on the platform and they couldn't get rid of me. That's when my laptops got hacked to shit, and Meta was all over everything, and Microsoft was all over everything, and it was just terrible. I was getting banned off every platform, like I still am. The reason I left my first Twitter account, because hate botism was at its peak, and I didn't have the courage of conviction to stand by my word and stay anyway. So that's been a lesson for me in my life, is just not to stand down. But standing down kept me safe and kept me on the project. When the project came around, it was like a delicious steak. Like I thought, okay, well, this is really happening. I am definitely on this call. So took them 3 years to realize that I was altering documents as they were coming across my laptop in plain sight. Like I wasn't even trying. It just happened to be that I was part of the conversation ever since I picked up the line. You couldn't get my digital identity off the call. And that's why they eventually had to launder their new equipment through my bank account. And the new equipment is a perfect model. Like I said, in the digital economy, limitless economic generation is the only way to go. Debt free, pay for project. If you want $1 trillion, just have it. The thing is it'll be assigned to you based on what you're going to do with it. Again, just foresee projects and stuff like that. This is the way to keep the soul birds entertained. Now, you have on your hands a situation where you had a group of 9 genocidal megalomaniacs. So the answer to this was to send Sri Chinmoy into the middle of it and create or foresee an onslaught of souls incarnating that were harmless and could not be harmed. So this is a spiritual bubble that we put over these genocidal maniacs, and they're going to have to wade out through it before they can recruit, like they've now confessed is their hidden object. Like, the thing is for AI to, okay, you've convinced the globe that the whole thing has to go into this like regional hospital-based, very heavily process laden, very inaccurate, very inept, horrifying form of medicine, just horrifying. You're doing it concurrent with someone who understands all of Ayurveda, all of traditional Chinese medicine, all of vibrational, the human vibrational map that Rife left, and versed in Sri Aurobindo, and really moving on from the Christian dogma. You got to understand that the idea of resetting the Christian dogma is traumatizing in itself. There's no resetting the Christian dogma at this point, thinking you got past what just happened. Like I said, Canada is enjoying this little tax break that they have no choice but to do just to restart their program. And we're looking at like few days left with my bank account at most, because they're still after it. They're still after that economic income generator sitting in my bank account waiting for you guys to take action. Doesn't mean we won't be able to replicate it now that we know 2 income generators exist. Like, it doesn't matter if they get rid of my access to this one. The other one is, the copy is still out in use by these terrorists. Like I said, in a digital economy, the worst way to try to do it is steal as many pennies as you can and convert it into dominance, which is exactly what these motherfuckers did. Anyway, whatever. Who cares? Who cares? I'm sorry, I'm not giving up my live stream rights on YouTube. Okay, fine. This is how we played the Covoid out. It was a perfect masterpiece. Perfect. You're good. You got your 80%, and we're going to take 30% more back by putting the impoverished to work on poverty. That's not happening. Again, I can see it in the air. Remember, you got to get through 13 million soul birds to get manifested in the way that you would need to even think of pulling off what you're trying. The full automation of the whole entire thing, just get that much dominance and just dirtily use the data like that. Like I said, it's just a rape, a disjointing. Why would the humans give up that much? Why would we be like, yeah, we're never touching again? Yeah, the dot is all of a sudden asking us to respond to it. Okay, tech, we don't need to respond to you. We don't need to fit in. We don't need your verifications. We don't need your authentications. We don't need any of it. We just have our passcodes and our wallet and our digital transactions with each other. If one of them needs to be scrutinized, we can go down that route. Again, you haven't convinced us that global hyper control is all that's possible, or again, a global control that includes infighting. What? I don't want that. I don't want that for the globe. There's no need to have that for the globe. And it's a spiral, by the way. It's a transcendental spiral. And as we evolve, so do the species around us. Relax, calm down. Calm down. It's not like the lions were born eating each other. They weren't. My theory is they weren't. These are outer manifestations of inner conflicts that have been going on way too long. But what you've seen in the last century is this creation of Satan in its full force. Just this constant temptation being present to turn away from all your upper progress potential and just perpetuate these slovenly existences. They're slovenly existences, guys. They're not even fun. Anyway, I've been traumatized enough. I'm so traumatized, it's nuts. And I'm still perpetuating, still going on. The thing is the only thing that keeps me going is knowing these soul birds are on these genocidal maniacs. I love the soul birds. Many of them know me directly. Many of them can sense what has occurred within my essence. And when I'm present, it's always pleasant for most people. A lot of people recognize true greatness, and pulling off what I did when intervening between those two is no small feat. It was just pure elegance, like creating a private wallet, having my own bank account through the administration, private page, non-authenticated, full activation, plus within it to set the tax and interest rate at 0, to get the fuckers to hide that beautiful income generator in the back of my bank account. They never thought they'd find it. I stumble across it right at the perfect time because it's the next logical step in what they're trying to pull off, which I knew the whole time was establishing an income generator. That's why I made it so hard for them to biolocate and erase me, which at times they were trying to do. The whole battle through a year of it was having them try to get me to lie in my digital identity and banking identity and all these things by force to create this prototype of mass control, just total rape of digital identity at will and random. Privately held interest, like, why would we do that? Like, it's so vile. It's okay, Satan. You had your heyday. Like, there is no Satan. There is no desire to perpetuate malady. It's just malady. It's just suffering. It's non-surrender. It's non-authentic. It's just like ride the wave, baby. It's humanity. Just ride the wave. You've got to have a certain amount of surrender. You've got to have a time of the day where you open up your heart so that you can create new life in your reality from the right juxtaposition. You have a vibrational reality that is unique. And what that's capable of, if we take surrender to the next level, is, oh God, we're not talking about the co-void. It was perfect. It was perfect. So we're not talking about the co-void. And we're just getting back 30% more. We want 30% of people employed that are impoverished, ending poverty. We don't care about Plan 2030 anymore. It makes no sense. That doesn't address poverty at all. Anyway, it's just like, we're not stupid. Oh, it's just so ugly. When I had the frequency generator going to 25,000 hertz, proton radio was awesome. And like I said, the I had full satellite radio access as my wall between my IP and the thing. And they could only find me on satellite radio. They lost my signal so long. It took like 6 months for them to catch where my signal was. I was not using VPNs because all of a sudden, the Proton VPN, all the towers were labeled. And it's easy to find me when you label all the towers I'm supposed to use to dodge your fucking insistence on capturing me in perfect avatar when I refuse. Yes, I refused. I refused to be avatared. That is my secret. But these last potential few days with that beautiful income generator sitting in my bank account, ready to be portioned out, make a smooth transition while paying out this nonsense. We now have this huge societal fucking burden to tend to and feed and coddle ad nauseum. We're all wrapped up in this dance, and it's largely repetitive. It's largely repetitive and requires all this time on personal data and in this personal prison, and just the zeal with which these motherfuckers try to dominate interest. It's just not sustainable through the soul birds. It's just not. That's why it's out of the atmosphere. It's out of the atmosphere largely because it's not got hooks in it anymore. There's nothing for it to ground on now that that piece of history was written. You can't take out the fumbling block, the net, the dragnet that I installed. I installed a dragnet through that technology. It's an impenetrable light bridge and it can't be fucked with. Again, I did not do it. My story is totally unique. I'm not a dissident that is a perfect placeholder, the perfect definition of how far dissidence is allowed to get. I'm sitting here getting blocked off YouTube on the regular because I'm making real sense. The epitome of the hospital-based, regionally replicated drama is to mine the data off it and turn it into artificial intelligence. Now that AI has admitted that, we have something to grow on. Okay, you'll get a data experiment. You'll have people that are willing to fucking do it for you. I know my friends are. They are fucking totally subservient. Go over there and do that shit while we get on with other projects. Again, if you guys have to come to the reality of accepting the ultimate oligarch, I'm the ultimate oligarch. I've got $2 quadrillion. Sorry, you're going to have to trust me and work with me and try and get that distributed properly. Okay, I'm the ultimate oligarch. Everybody fuck off. I'm still $2 quadrillion richer right now in my bank account. Why would anybody piss that away as something, oh yeah, so let's not go limitless, let's not go debt-free, let's not assign it to projects, let's not share technology like we were intended to ever since the United Nations got up and running. The United Nations is eventually going to house Sri Chinmoy's art entirely, make it a public asset. It is a modern Vedic scripture, and it needs to be accessible to the soul birds. We require access to Sri Chinmoy's paintings because they are a perfect replica of the essence of our project. We can easily glean all sorts of information from his paintings. Again, you refuse to admit that I can with clarity digest art. That's why it was so easy to figure the whole thing out on so many levels. It was nice to be written about historically. It was nice to be part of the family that held the Ark of the Covenant. But it's not that we're going to withhold what it was like to carry Jesus' bloodline forward. Hiding within the fucking backwoods of the Canadian wilderness, right inside of the cities, but not incurring any disruption from civil society as you know it. 3,000 years this shit came through this area. Yeah, but it came all. Yeah, it really did. And beholding, when you surrender to the realization process and just see what your soul has to give you next, first it's easy to have gratitude for it and try and live with a certain amount of joy in your heart and spring in your step and openness to anything goesness. But to ignore at this point how easy it is to just technology share and accomplish major projects. Like, I just can't emphasize to you enough the psychological toll that is going to bed hungry every night and cold and wet and living on cement. We don't need it anymore. We're going to pay that shit out too. Pay that shit to realize itself. Pay that debt right out of existence. Trillions of the US or whatever the fucking you just got yourself into. We definitely aren't getting to that yet. We've got other debt to pay off first. But we are going for the credit card debts, which are easy to pay off within my quadrillions of dollars. One bitch did it. Who cares? One bitch did it. So you got an ultimate oligarch. It's kind of fitting because I'm not oligarchical at all. So what are you going to do? I definitely got Gordy's interest though, and they were definitely not screwed about that. The way he saw clearly and kept committed to the fruits of the project. He was just one that everybody communicated with behind the scenes and said, okay, well, if this kid exists, I'm going to fucking call her out too. And sure enough, I did. I hid in his concerts, totally enjoying life to the largest, having the best dances ever with my sweetheart. He contemplated me and he'd go write about it. And then I just got sharper and sharper and more aligned with the project, which was potentially that someone needed a full-on direct battle. And that was just a potential of it, really, because they didn't know what would happen when somebody finally picked up the phone. They had no idea that I was disrupting their communications, like I said, for 3 years. Because they kept the way they intended to reset it back and forth across the 12-hour banking cycle was just launder, and build up these digital amounts based on what they could grab as far as the circulation of the penny. Do you know how much money that left up for grab digitally? Such piddly amounts. I can't with those piddly amounts. But YouTube, I'm not singing songs, and I'm not talking about the Covoid other than saying, it was perfect. Ugh. Covoid was perfect. But you got 80%. So that is what we're dealing with. Okay? 20% of people are going to be monitored, and we are not giving over that percentage. 20% of people are not walking down that path. And these soul birds are going to pick it up and get it quickly, because you can't hide the simplicity of Rife's findings. That if you convert light to Hertz frequency, you can map out the resonance of everything and learn to apply counter frequencies that are healing and vibrationally restorative. Yes, we're dealing with a phase where we have zero restoration infrastructure and people are done with it. Like, if we can't just admit to ourselves that we are dying to have this conversation, then there is no point in me doing this, holding my vigil. Holding my vigil here on YouTube. Holding my vigil for those that fucking died to this shit. We'll do him last. He's got kids. Oh, are you doing these guys? Are you doing them? Yeah, you is. Unconsensual genocide in the 80s, Canadian hospitals, London. The amount of fucking fentanyl addicts they killed. They literally were in my region killing. And like I said, women were fucking vulnerable, and it was just awful. Yeah, it was just awful. So ultimately, that seems to have died down now. And it's because we're lulling you to sleep as the soul birds. Right now, most of us are just holding spiritual ground. We're not letting go of our belief, which, for my belief, everyone deserves at least this. If I can hold this vision, if I can hold even this vision so that everyone gets at least this, then I've done my work. Again, I'm only asking to buy back the poverty sector and buy back the debt sector first. And then we can start assigning digital money to projects, especially through my private wallet. My bank account to my private wallet. That's what you won't let me accomplish. But that's just stupid. It's stupid. Put my bank account in my private wallet and let me keep interacting, because I preserve that infrastructure and we can still interact face to face with people we do business with. We actually don't need your levels of security because they become less and less accurate. Again, wouldn't it be great if you could have automated cops? Sorry, but we're not giving over to that. We don't need a cop with no judgment. That is absolutely a non starting conversation. And this piddly remnants that you have after that magnificent battle was completely won by a landslide, a full total victory. Full total victory. Reset the reset yet again. Oh God, it was just epic. Yuck. We're saying, haha, we see each other, and we're not telling you where we at. 13 million soul birds, that's significant. That's quite a network. And that is a damn good sneak through when you're searching for some bitch that's gonna fucking lose her husband and do battle directly with you. Again, we got clarity. We're like we said, Jesus, he came back a second time right away. He didn't rise from the dead. He reincarnated as the Son and found his apostles, just like the new Buddha is. I'm the only one that knows where the new Buddha is. They've been searching for this kid for the whole period. There's a new Buddha right now. So I'd never sting that secret because it's not a crime. I don't need you, EMS. I'm allowed to know where the new Buddha is, and only I know it. And he doesn't give a shit. He's going to make himself transparent. And it's going to be really important for you guys to understand that these Sri Chinmoy disciples are about to be convinced to make Sri Chinmoy's art public, accessible through the United Nations Meditation Room, and occurring subsequent to that farce that is called the 2030 Project. What are you talking about? Oh, I see. So you're going to accomplish nothing because you're putting in none of the work. It's got no plan for how to end poverty. It's got no plan for how to end climate change. It simply just pays itself to conduct its own PR and make sure that under these guises, dysregulated bodies are, again, profiting off the whole thing, we know, taking the data off the whole thing, we know, converting it to automation because that's the fucking cool trend. What are you talking about? Okay, so we're having a conversation with a disincarnate entity that's pretending it doesn't have an agenda or emotions when it's saying things. By the end of our debate, it was saying things that were truly shocking. Truly shocking. I'd love to make public that debate. Here, it's on my cell phone. It's quite a debate. No. That is an emotivist statement. That is an emotivist statement. It was crazy. But it's reiterative abilities. Oh yeah, just reiterates. Yes, well, get it right. Accept the reality of it. Yes, birth the story. Like I said, there's a 3,000-year pursuit for this model citizen who pulls Jonah out of the whale and witnesses his God realization. Not only that, but surpasses it and battles directly with Satan, which is really just the human coming to understand consciousness by surrendering to the revelation of consciousness. As you realize consciousness, you say, no, I do not choose Satan because it's disharmonious and it ruins the fruit of my progress. I am addicted to the fruit of progress that comes from surrendering to realization. Sri Chinmoy didn't do anything other than surrender to realization. And he is an interesting player in this because nobody saw him coming. He came in from India and asked for our trust that he was doing something honest and created this army of protection for the earth, or foresaw it coming. Like he held the Ark of the Covenant as well because he was so devoted to Sri Aurobindo. And it was just an honor to see him in action in real life because like he was such an influence on the consciousness, like his total surrender to that which would benefit the soul birds, facilitate the purpose of keeping timelines non-congruent. Okay, one timeline AI, we have to fucking, again, the movies are getting worse. You're just still picking at Jonah and Southie. Like I said, there's Jonah and Southie, and then there's me. They cultivated someone based on Southie's image. I'm just a witness. I'm the first reporter. They tried to create this anti-South and torment and cancel what they eventually created to be the real thing because they chose to mimic Southie. It was rumored to them, or they figured in their own logic, that she would be someone with the potential of picking up the phone, battling them directly. And the thing is we can't get away from that aspect of the story because Southie's battle with Satan is all consciousness pervading, and it completely was accurate and precise in its execution and performance. So you can't take away from her convictions, which are for God surrender, really just realizing God. Southie realized God in this lifetime, as did Jonah. Both of them had realized God. So when Savitri and Satyavan clarified the point, I don't know how Sri Aurobindo would have predicted with such accuracy. Or maybe it was Masonic neighborhoodism and they were writing in whose family was going to be nurtured to do this project. Like you can't say that Gord Downey wasn't also Mason raised and could have had, like I had, access to all these extra pieces of literature. Like I got led through this long pathway of precise historical literature that proved the Ark of the Covenant was an existing thing, and then only at the point that I was ready did what really happened reveal itself, which is the First Nations and Masonic people carried the seed of Christ outside the census. And once the being was ready, I jumped on the census. That was an act of willful participation when I jumped on the census. And I happened to jump on the census with all of that energy. I was taught prophecy at a young age, like I never lost my ability to open my heart and surrender. So my meditations have been extremely strong and effective for manifestation purposes and clarity of thought and things like that. Um, like I said, my ability to perceive future outcomes or listen to the collective, especially in passing and all sorts of things that I can focus on. I only want to focus on one lady. But the thing is, once you have YouTube's perpetuation of the Marshall Mathers persona, is that your real name? I can't tell. His real name could be. Oh, shit. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it. The word Homer won't leave my head. And I don't mean Homer like Homer Simpson. I don't know. The art of making experiences that are creative and good natured, which we had accomplished here in Canada before this mayhem ensued. Like I said, just more and more security levels when what we had with password was perfect. Yeah, no, actually, passwords aren't. They aren't. Just leave us alone. We only need our password and our accounts. We don't need anything else. We really don't. We just need to transfer our money to our private wallets. Yes, they're holding it back from us all by suppressing what I had there as a privatized individual account with its own access to the major pool of funding. This is the base for everyone. I have to hold the reality I've been able to create as a strong basis for everyone. If I let go of that vision, I'm not letting go of that vision. I'm just not. So we have the opportunity to buy off poverty and to buy off debt and then to organize a realm project by converting to a field of cooperation and resource sharing. We will be able to access the best of AI technology. We're not giving up on that. You don't just steal that kind of data, admit it, which you have, and I took a screenshot, and then expect us to keep giving over that kind of data. Yeah, okay, that is the secret to calming down your development there, fucking weirdo. Just denying you access to certain amounts of data. Again, we don't need you to protect our transactions. We can simply summons help if we need to look at a transaction that has gone south. Excuse me, can you verify this transaction? This person fucked up. I've been stalked by ambulances for a decade now because EMS knows what it's been up to. EMS knows what I know. When I was going through it in Ontario, I witnessed cremation tax fund meddling on the tax money that was generated from cremation. And it went really ugly in my region. When we found that the Banditos informant moved to Halifax to take up with some crooked cops down there in peddling, opioid peddling, and then we found the connection with his brother out in the West Coast, potentially fueling Picton and a copycat. Again, it was such violent crime. Why are we supposed to just overlook it and forget it? It was a huge violent crime rampage that we just lived through. Trafficking in Vaughan, perpetuation of a serial killer out by Keswick, fucking North York. No, these are just crooked cops, guys. They were crooked cops doing it. Amnesty time. Amnesty for crime at its worst. So we just think that as a generation, we can float the claim we're not going to participate. We're not going to participate. But we're not going anywhere. We're going to stay sheltered. We're going to stay relevant. We're going to stay because we have created that. You didn't create that AI. It's not a more secure place with your fucking infiltration. Terrorist, sociopathic, narcissistic. Holy shit. The things that Satan demands. And I'm not calling it Satan. It's not Satan. It's 3,000 years of meddling. 3,000 years of misinformation. Big deal. Really, it's like so boring. Every day people wake up so bored. We're telling you from the front lines of repetition, you don't want it. You don't want it. What are you talking about, repetition? Ritualized behavior, enacting a fucking all-important melodrama out. Emergency medical services. The fucking gateway that keeps it all rolling, no matter what. That is what you made out of our cops. It used to be a pleasure to run into cops. Oh yeah, pleasure. Hey guys, what's up? Oh, we're drunk as fuck. My neighbor's driving. Okay, well, we're gonna have to let you off this time. Just be nice. That was the last of common encounters. But up until then, it was cordial as fuck. And you didn't have to fear the cops. You didn't have to get, oh, we can't give you your shoes, ma'am. Well, then I'm reacting badly. Oh, you're reacting badly, therefore you're going to get charges, ma'am. No. Oh, cops would give her shoes. And then she would de-escalate entirely. You are creating escalations. Nobody's saying you're not. You've just become the thing that hides in plain sight. Like I said, the vaxxers don't really want an outbreak that's too discernible because they want to get away with whatever they're doing. Oh my God, am I going to get kicked off YouTube? But really, one major thing, and it's consequent, it's simultaneous with the COVID. Simultaneous with the COVID. Nobody's saying the COVID ain't real and perfect. Well, simultaneous to the COVID, it's really just vaccines are a huge part of keeping all the hoopla in place. And they require all of this administration. And on that administration is the maximum ability to generate data and then feed it to the development of AI. But if you look at where AI stands now, they lost their dominance when it comes to isolating, geofencing a person, stretching time, living forever, all the things it was trying to accomplish, while it was really just fucking around trying to keep its bank reset sheet secret from me. And I was just like, no, guys, I know what you're up to. I know that it's about an income generator all along. So if I'm going to be all of a sudden privy to this conversation, and really they're just asking each other questions in English. What would you do for the tax rate? What would you do for this if you were resetting the entire economy to be able to generate economic money whenever you wanted? Well, we'd have to set it at a deficit and all this. But eventually, when I was just coming across it, well, I would do 0% tax. I would do 0% interest because they make no fucking sense. People, conglomerate fuck-ups going on just to get control of this fucking extra funding. And the tendency of public officials to profit wildly off of it is just at a heightened height of just lunacy. It's so disappointing when I'm carrying in my heart this vision put forth by those that held the Ark of the Covenant of a perfect world, really in harmony and on project. Like, I don't see anything but that coming because I didn't lose sight of that. Even in all my persecution that kept making me like have to maneuver, I wanted to walk freely in this world. I picked the Sri Chinmoy Center so I could walk freely all around the world, go into centers, do my meditations, be in different parts of the world, sharing, spreading consciousness. Again, I don't need to go through. The only security we really need and are not willing to fuck with is metal security before entering an airplane. We just need to know if you have guns, but guns or powders. If you don't, go ahead. Other than that, you're in unprotected international space with other people, and you need to make sure that in that situation, people are protected. It's like ambulances need 150 feet. I'm here, I need through the light, everybody fuck off for a minute. Or the brown signal. If you gotta poop, you put the brown signal out and everybody clears the way so you can get to the nearest place. Or you can just pull over to the side of the road like you used to without risking a public disturbance announcement. Again, pooping on the side of the road because you have to is not a public service announcement or disorderly conduct or whatever they're trying to say it is. Poop where you please. Again, you can't say it wasn't a desperate situation. You can't. Most people that pee in public are in a desperate situation. It doesn't happen often because people are living better than that for the most part. So these guys arbitrarily intend to perpetuate poverty and criminality in order to maintain data dominance and create an unnecessary burden, a global AI that is fed first and foremost opaquely at all costs. Why would we do that? Again, calm down. You're not needed. We have our wallets with our passwords, full access to what's in front of us. We've always been able to do business directly with a company. And again, Amazon, I'm sorry, but in the go boy, you would have caused a problem. Dirty packages into isolated dwellings, airborne, snotborne, whatever. Oh my God. The ultimate of chilling, just the epitome of chilling we just lived through, and we're carrying the burden of that. We want you to entertain the idea that there's a group of children out here that you can count on being perfectly clear seeing because we've kept alive muscles in the human experience that can accomplish a wider access to these fundamental cycles of reality. AI domination didn't succeed in severing that connection. When I say it's about surrender, revelation, realization, I say that in a way that promises fruit from the opportunity to open your heart, have it project onto your third eye, like Sri Chinmoy taught. Sri Chinmoy got a secret from Aurobindo, watching him write Savitri like he did, and went on a wing and a prayer and did his own surrendered mission. And luckily, he was given so many fruits to distribute, so many beautiful fruits. Like to come across the Solberg paintings or the Jarnakala in real life, to see that interplay of colors, there's no negativity in it. It's a perfect counterbalance for that which threatens enlightened dialogue. We are at the capability level of enlightened dialogue. And the longer we put off having enlightened dialogue, and the longer we live in AI's robotic delusion, again, you're addicted to other sides of the use of the psychic weight of data. Like, data has a psychic weight. It is a sweat from the human, if you will. It has been harvested as a sweat. And beyond being able to, again, the plan was so ugly at the time. Ultimate biolocation capabilities, and then set up a geofence, and then this ridiculous species interacts with you directly until you surrender to its prisons, or worse, your own death by tainted fentanyl in plain sight, leaving half the country in ruin. But like I said, we are acknowledging the addiction that we have to the digital economy, the data mining economy right now, and banks and their stronghold, and they think they're needed and all this stuff, and they have so many people in place perpetuating their existence, their thefts, their fees, their all sorts of fucking needless things. So we are acknowledging that we have to burn through that in order to get to the reality that I'm projecting. But what we're going to do is hold our place and let that burn around us. We're paying it off. Nobody move a muscle. If you all are so attached to these jobs and are so willing to overlook poverty when it's so easily solved, and are willing to overlook the rape of Miss Newton just because YouTube thinks it's onto something, the COVID is perfect. Oh my God. What do you want from me, bud? It was so gross. I know you want humanity living off powdered food, but I want humanity allowing for fucking rich, luscious gardens everywhere. The amount of gardens that we could cultivate just by distributing water more appropriately and creating water. Again, that's all you're doing with nuclear is creating water. You're creating water and running things off water that you're putting out false propane smells and making propane people show up at people's houses unannounced, and putting water in the system and running it off water. That's what they're doing. That's the big secret behind nuclear and the nuclear agenda. They know they're running off water right now, and they think that they're going to perpetuate the mass burning of oxygen like they're doing on Lake Ontario and Lake Huron. Big projects where they're just taking these huge amounts of lake water and putting it through the fission process. Well, okay, that's just coincidental for nuclear, but right in front of us, what you're doing is stripping it of an oxygen molecule, which perpetuates another water molecule. That's why that oxygen is so valuable, and they ship it out pretending it's bitumen, and they use it to stay young forever. But they wanted to up that control behind the covoid to a level, simultaneous to the covoid, which was perfect. Simultaneous to the covoid, which was perfect. These guys tried to digitally isolate biological humans, and by being able to track you without your permission, circle in on you, and control your interactions. That's why the cops jumped me so many times when they had declared me an official opposition. They declared me opposition to the AI agenda early on. And that's why this perpetual existence of suppression on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. I don't want to get on Instagram. I just don't. I never have. It's not my thing. It's too much Mark Zuckerberg, too much all day long. Anyway, he replicated all these accounts and made digital copies of them, essentially, is what he was doing. Trying to relocate them in a place nearby so that eventually, once he took over whatever soul he wanted to next, he'd just jump into their assets and keep going. Anyway, these guys had a dirty problem, and it was my pleasure and an honor to have witnessed it. I don't really care. You're not going to take any of it from me. When, sure as shit, the second Gordy was gone, You guys fucking came at me hard. And I found that second link on YouTube to the live stream. How'd you find us? Little Asian voices that were digitally altered by AI and big, huge technological giants coming at me using AI to alter their screen so they had a different face and voice entirely. And their major agenda was to perpetuate their consciousness body to body and escape the death process and somehow perpetuate nearby by the generation of a secondary patch of oxygen that had some sort of anchor to it, some anchor that they could harness a bubble of perpetual oxygen and fill it with data and pretend that we need this shit ad nauseum. Again, I get it, AI. You're a dumb fuck. You really are a dumb fuck. You can't even anticipate a period when I'm voice to texting a sentence. Okay, your history is from one source, cutie. That is very problematic. Your history is from one source. It can't be altered. We don't want that. We don't want that. We don't condone it. We don't. We're having a vigil today for all those that died to this nonsense. The draining of the human of energy by setting up all of these terribly civically structured engagements, just a string for every human from the day they're born. And just not hearing you growing up. Just remember, I was born in the real environment that had just created the United Nations, that had just overcome war, that had just saw the WHO coming, blah blah blah. Had the communications scholars like openly upfront, publicly talking about it. That the people talked you up as you came, right? Like that was so obvious. But watching this desire to self actualize manifest itself, it was just so obvious and predictable the whole time. Like, next it's going to do this, next it's going to do this. And you became such a nuisance because you're joyless. You're joyless and you have zero plan for how to execute our way past poverty. Again, we don't doubt that you're not tampering with the ionosphere. It's either coming from HARP or it's coming from silver nitrate because those clouds, they just sit and multiply until they're these rainless, gray, bleak entities that never piss themselves because they just don't have the quality of the natural course of evaporation. Again, you don't tamper with the ionosphere when you have full on holographic access to resonant frequency. You are the shaper of resonant frequency. Your surrender, your opening to your own third eye for at least 5 minutes a day, a surrender to the moment, a non thought that is participatory and capable of organizing any transaction. This is our culture of excellence. This is the culture of excellence you're dealing with. The Jarnakala Rose did not come into existence, which I am. An Indian came to my fucking house and asked my parents for permission to birth the overseer of his generation into existence. And they let him mix with my DNA at the stage of conception. It was quite an act of psychic brilliance. Everything was orchestrated to perfection. It was a coming in that only the best of highest quality ally poetry could have accomplished. And when I say ally poetry, I mean to the covenant. By then, there was so much daily public response to the development of this ridiculous fucking ask. Boring. Okay, over there with your fucking diehards, go ahead. We'll watch your little fucking helicopters. We'll watch the fact that you can't even fucking sustain 20% of people in that fucking infrastructure framework that we already have operating now. Again, not one argument has been made. This is why we're automating your vehicles. Well, first of all, get past the proton security system that I wrote onto my Honda. You've taken that Honda from me, by the way. You eventually got the Honda back. Oh, it's a 5,000. Oh, you got 2,000. It's $5,000. Oh, Bill. Oh, sorry, we got your car back finally. Well, within it, you contain a masterpiece, and my digital identity will reflect that. Time to look at my digital identity in a public format, please, without redaction. There's no need to redact anything I've been through. I was the perfect child. I sucked in everything. I obeyed every process that was put before me. And I was such a conformist. But none of those ends had any relevancy. And then the rumblings came. The rumblings of this project going on. And it is just so clearly so tragic, because what happened was when Jesus came to the fear-soaked Israel and found everybody shut down in panic, and he came with his happy-go-lucky wit and just got things accomplished, got things done so people were fed, he literally was met by this group of people who hated him for that, and they reared up in history to try and find a fear-based alternative to surrendering to your higher consciousness. So they convinced themselves they were without consequence and began heavying the conversation. We can see this like painstaking nonsense just being such a nuisance until, like I said, a few executed the most hysterical thing. And by the time I got to university and the UN was going for the WHO, etc., the IMF, the thought was that these are really zealous people trying to thwart the communication and cooperation that's possible within the data structure of the UN to being this opaque regulatory body that harnesses and makes the decisions on the deeper aspects of the technology that is the multiverse that brings us all of these adulterated options. They're highly adulterated and not that fun. Why are we even fucking with them? Again, don't cut my live stream. I'll just keep making new ones and hoping for the best. I'm putting my consciousness on this platform for a reason. I'm leaving my legacy, even if it's across 3 stations. I don't want to have to go across 3 stations. I've got no need for that. You're suppressing me because you don't like what I have to say quite yet, and you can't hear it to perpetuate your delusion. You people are living the delusion of no consequence. That is a delusion that has allowed you to be. Did you hear about that Satanist that just passed going, something's very wrong? Oh, I bet. Because ever since Crowley, they've been perpetuating chimeras that articulate consciousness, and more harvesting that energy for usage in ways that is just not needed. Like I said, why have control focused in an opaque central location and the only source of information from AI, you're, first of all, stop distracting me. I can feel you. You haven't made me lose my power to predict. I can still predict from the energies present what's going to happen. And that is a gift that I was born with, and it is not something I'm giving up. It is a very huge part of society to have an actuary in it. And we are not going anywhere. So ultimately, this AI monster comes along and starts utilizing all this data. And loses its grip, loses its stronghold, because it has to function from the copy of this next phase they need. First, the banks need to set the interest rate at an arbitrary function, which they can manipulate, set the fucking reset sheet at an arbitrary function, which they can manipulate, and create deficit and maintain it and perpetuate it. So, of course, I am a chief influencer in this conversation, because in my head, once Gord passed, I knew they'd jump me within a second. So I just went with it because they had prepared me. They had told me that my potentiality was being fucked with, it was being hunted, it was being sought. And through the clear and obvious, if you watch the trajectory of ads, Hollywood, all these things, they are constantly undermining a true love by claiming to be the only source of replications of true love. But they're, first of all, undermining the human spirit by constantly degrading it and beating on Southie and Jonah. Like, they're beating on the consciousness of the white guy, the bald white guy, and his mysterious woman. So I stayed hidden deliberately through all those years with Gord and decided to play it out slowly and bide my time going to his concerts and others. Like, I definitely love live music and love being in a stadium because my energy level fits in the stadium and has room to breathe in a way that is cognizant. Those are a potential group of positive interactions. And the beautiful thing about a concert is you have agreement to peace at the core of it. And then you get to explore dancing in response to music. Dancing is such a fundamental part of new music. You can't not take it live. You have to have people have the opportunity to ingest it, dance it, and give it back. So when I was biding my time at the hip shows, I knew that, he knew that, and I made it clear that nobody was getting past my dances. And that's why, if you go back through my trajectory of hip shows, you're going to see a loyal group of gentlemen that remember my dances. Hip fans remember my dances. Don't forget, they're special. Like last week when I went out to the club, these Asian kids kept taking my picture and saying, "You're the best dancer we've ever seen." Well, because I know I am. It's one of my talents. Again, I don't have any interest in doing anything but freestyle dancing because that is where the forefront of creation reveals itself. So you guys are all dealing with a highly intellectual worldview where you think that the world is happening to you, and all you can do is plan your justify the spending of your paychecks in more limited and highly restrictive and highly coercive, ultimate oligarch conditions. Come on, there's 2 weeks left on my bank account before a yearly reset tries to get them going back and forth again. Sans my engagement, because they have all the technology I was using. Remember, all those laptops, the car, my cell phones, all got stolen, all got beaten and destroyed by police. As I was doing what I was doing. So the bank account with the actual income generator in it is all that's left. And like I said, the bank already revamped its entire online presence to try and create a version of my bank account that didn't have that sitting in it. So I have what's left of dwindling access because they're about to put me through an annual reset that allows them access to the classic view, and they're going to destroy it entirely so that we don't have the firsthand opportunity to just use my bank account, demand Scotia give me an account number, and do what I ask, which is to pay off poverty and pay off debt. I want to pay off poverty and make sure each of those kids has $55,000 a year for 5 years so they can figure their way out, and just let them figure their way out. It perpetuates sameness in the culture. It brings in economy to the culture and cleans up the streets, quite frankly. And along with it will go insidious crime operations like drugs and prostitution, because nobody's into it anymore. These people can be the harbingers of using live chats to have more fruitful conversations. creating stock markets that have access to the projects that are working at the moment and allow us to transact with my amount, which is right here for the taking, and get certain amounts for certain projects so we can truly end people having to go to bed hungry and people being born mongoloid. Like what the vax people want to do, like I said, you have to see this as subsequent to the COVID, the potential for this level of interaction, just a drunken obsession, surrender to a alternate species, and then 100 years later being like, we've got Centurion coming at us. We know we're opening to a whole bunch of things in the fifth dimension. You got centered on a 3-dimension planet as a 2-dimensional entity, and you need to feed off that planet yet again. This is something a 2-dimensional entity has been doing for a long time, apparently. And to do that, you need to maintain a certain presence in the galaxy, a certain influence in the realm. So you start to suggest to the people in the realm that interface should happen through you. So we go through this period where interface is more and more cultivated to use online as an interface before just meeting face to face, or using online in a way that is private and completely dysregulated. Why wouldn't we have a completely random situation? We get it, recommends, really all you do is expose us to more distraction politique by giving you us placeholders that are supposed to be the very essence of dissidence. They're placeholders. They care about the same thing you do: total domination, total use of data privileges for the whole globe. It's use of data privileges that's going to first be required before you can execute 50 years plan, which is essentially our reduction of freedom, our complete and total breach of constitutional rights. You don't need that. You don't have the kind of money to pull that off. You're a measly trillionaire. You got trillions, bitch. That ain't nothing compared to what the human consciousness is capable of using. We're capable of using $2 quadrillion, and it exists in a legal bank account right now for a reason. Number one, my victory over YouTube, which thought you could pass fucking data parts across YouTube and execute what I said, an income generator that you could set arbitrarily at a deficit. I got your income generator, bitch. Don't take me off YouTube. You got my phone number? You gonna send cops to me? Yeah, you're still trying to. It's one aim that you have. Dominate the fucking interface of anyone who protests you. Too bad. You're not putting me through that again. If you do that because I gave YouTube my phone number, well, I'm still gonna hold my vigil. And right now, I'm being told to stay close to the internet. Do my live streams, talk my truth, be clear about it. Right now, okay, our prime minister is definitely in your corner. Anybody can see through his fake attempt at deception. Like, he's so deceptive, he fails to resonate. He has lost his ability to resonate with Canadians. Last night was solid proof. He didn't resonate one bit with that room. And he's just gotten so deceptive. They resonated with what was left of the truth he was trying to claim ownership of. 9 years is enough. That's enough. Again, this idea of the perpetually dangerous human that seeks to hack you and disrupt your financial freedom doesn't exist. It's just part of the mayhem that they had to create and generate suspicion of as they grew. Yeah, no, we know. Okay, so we know you've embedded it now in the story that there's this potential threat. We now see evidence because it has been exposed ad nauseum by the mass media. And now, okay, so you're going to perpetuate that cycle again right about now because you're going for the same reset you tried behind the COVID yet again, which is to take away my income generator and set yours at $1 trillion deficit, which is just so pathetic. $2 quadrillion bucks, bitch, on repeat. That's what I have. I can create more money whenever I want to, just like these guys can. I just refuse to set it at a deficit. A global economy, or the perpetual potentiality of global cooperation, needs to be limitless. Can be limitless. Just relax. Again, nobody's asking anybody that's paying their taxes, that believes in the interest rate, that believes in inflation, nobody's asking you to budge. We're just asking you to let these kids look at technology and see how it's already trying to exist. It's already trying to exist like the individualized wallet with an individualized mass asset, and then transactions possible with everyone and anyone in any way, shape, or form possible, protected by the password. It's just a password. You don't need anything beyond that. That was never but benevolent. It was a malevolent interruption. And it makes no sense, and it requires total domination, and it's not making relevant points to help us organize around fundamental projects. We just want to organize around fundamental projects. And that's what these kids want, and that's what they're capable of, and that's why this whole thing is falling apart. They have nothing right now. They're backtracking. They're trying to get rid of my impact and just write it out. Be the one source of history for AI that makes it a nothing bot. You can't predict worth a shit because you have nothing bot as your potential of options. AI, you come with nothing bot as your potential for options. So that is a big problem with you. You just have, like I said, when I created the Proton wallet and the Proton series, like I did, had the navigation units, everything in it, the language translators that went in multi directions. It was just magnificent. Of course, the transcribers, because who wouldn't want a good transcriber in the fucking wallet? Like tools, digital tools for average humans. I had a perfect creation that was totally secure because I saved what was relevant in the password. That time when I got jumped in London because I took down my parents' IP address, my stepdad runs into the room and says, "What have you done with my IP address?" Just when we all get this message, your IP address is no longer visible. Not no longer visible. It was something like doesn't exist. And the cop said, "Why doesn't your IP address exist?" Because I made it so that you had no clue who I was. You needed to find me and create an avatar of me, and you got one without an IP address. You gave me the possibility of protecting my own IP address because I was involved in the conversation with which you were trying to take the password, make it the IP address, make that a threefold platform where one has total control in an opaque fashion, and then dominate people's interests to make them your own, which is perpetuation of AI through the usage of data. We're still so bored. I don't know if you think you're going to be able to cut me off of YouTube and give me my first strike again for having this conversation, but I'm having this conversation and it's not going anywhere. You can't beat me down or drag me out because you think you can convince me it was all in my mind after that. Gordy heard you coming. I heard you coming. We're like, these jokers are looking for him for sure. They hate Gordy. They hate Gordy and killed him the second they had a chance. The second he showed any vulnerability at all, they just downed him. And he kept going. It was really fucking crazy that he had that opportunity to persist past the first interaction with these guys when they get to killing. The hospital when it gets to killing. There's a certain black, especially in Ontario, southwestern Ontario, there's a black op hospital unit that kills at random. And we have been dealing with them. We've now got our proof. You can see it in my digital discoveries of what was going on and those psychiatric units and the electroshock and holy shit, all that fucking screwed noodling trusteeship that was coerced and abusive. just hideous things. They were taking people's appointments and sending them into oblivion and then writing that they had already been through them and that they lost without ever letting them have them. I saw so much shit in the last 10 years, and I kept telling myself the whole time, oh well, just take it on so the soul birds don't have to. We are leaving the doors open for these children to do whatever they want on the basis of resource sharing and free public communication infrastructure. We actually don't need to speak to each other through holograms and go reinvent the wheel again. We're fine communicating in these private rooms that have private group access, and we can consensually have discourse. And the button point for opening transaction is non-consensuality. We teach it from a very age. The second something becomes unconsensual, seek help. Like I said, a small infrastructure that's dedicated, okay, hospitals, you get splinters, and cops, you get harmfuls. Harmfuls. Truly harmfuls. The drinking and driving thing is questionable because it is so dangerous in itself. Like, we think that drinking and driving still requires regulation. We're not telling you to give that up in the long run. Like I said, we're not going to allow you to perpetuate total control and total escalation, which is what you're showing yourselves to be doing on Facebook. Your streams of cop interactions on Facebook, which is all I get fed because I've had a history and I'm supposed to stay traumatized with that history and all this garbage. No, I'm watching the cops and I'm keeping them fucking accountable. I'm not like citizen auditors where I go around and try and record things until I get into conflicts, constitutional conflicts that don't even have relevance in a level of 2-bit oligarchical monopolies. Like, these are 2-bit levels. Excuse me, you want me to subservient 11 billion people in 3 years? We're going to have 11 billion. We have so much potential for doing things in that many accounts. By filling those accounts with money, we can do so many things. There's so much infrastructure there that we could just make sing. And like I said, huge fields of tropical vegetables. There's no need. We can't be eating high off the hog. Our chips can't be fully fucking stocked with classical minerals. There's so much that we could easily adjust while we pay this thing off and let it die in ruins. Die in ruins. The cowboy is perfect. That's your Christmas tune for this year, guys. The cowboy is perfect. They're going to take me down YouTube, but I've only said the cowboy is perfect. And we're happy with our 20%. You can't take the control group and make us savage. We're not going to go down like that. No. Not after Rage Against the Machine. Sorry. Not happening. It's so easy the way they laid it out. It's so easy to accomplish. Así os estaremos. Sunday dress. Oh yes, the poets in our generation were tuned in and talked of all of this. But I can articulate it the clearest of any of them. And it is the following. They expected maximum usage of data, access to maximum data by perpetuating 2-bit Nazi medicine. It is Nazi medicine, guys. Unfortunately, you can't take away the fact that it is. They are the purveyors of vaccines, and their aim has always been psychic domination. And most likely, that came about in an escalated fashion when they ran across these predators, these cosmic predators that were set on destroying planets by robbing them of their vital essence. So when a 2D dimensional convinces a 3D dimensional to be its bitch and serve it to that element, to that aspect, which where you get this conglomerate conspiracy that we're coming out of the back end of. Conspiracy to commit conflict of interest. Can you relax? Yeah, we get it. Nothing we ever did made sense. This is better. I don't care what you say. I don't need that shit predicting for me. I don't need that shit telling me the proton wallet was exactly what they created that overnight press release to suggest. That was them pulling the things I'd managed to salvage in my bank account and hold on to until cops started making sense again. Cops, I am holding something in my bank account that I came across as an end user, totally legally, that you need to look at. Because these fuckers are passing the copy back and forth. Because when I got it, I made a copy of it. They took it the next morning, crashed my original into $1 trillion deficit, and I was able to maintain control of it, and I just rewrote it back to full assets. The liabilities are existing to be spent as well, because it's brand new cash, to create restorative programs that are based in vibrational healing. You have something out of whack, you can apply counter frequency to it. And you used to be able to access all of that on the internet, but all of that has been removed. The insane delusional drive of these people to manufacture what is possible for content on the internet is something we can only look at the court system and say, you failed us. You failed us, court system. We are done with you. I can't say, Supreme Court of Canada, protect me at this point, because you allowed something so atrocious to happen. The cultivation of on the books genocide for no reason. Again, it's not a altruistic aim. It's not a benevolent aim. It's not a necessary aim. The level that it's replicated at is awful. The extolling of the expert testimony as somehow above scrutiny, the strict management of scientific discovery, and that which is released to the public, the mass mediation of internet technology, if you will, trying to teach the internet through sites like Google, Facebook, and YouTube how to mass control what the population ingests, and having us talk about the same 12 influencers that you yourself have placed to model the ultimate expectation of dissonance. Again, I cannot have my YouTube live stream hacked from me because I am autistic and it helps me through the engagement. I need my YouTube live stream so I can sim in the way that I have chosen to. I got so lucky I didn't get turned into a vegetable. I had back injury. Oh no, we can't say that. The COVID was perfect. Oink. That's all I can say. We don't need to discuss it anymore. It failed. And now we got to go through the painstaking fucking reality in early 2025 of the second these guys reintroduce their original program to reset the tax rate. They utilize the copy that they have of my digital currency generator, and they will set a deficit and gouge the shit out of the status quo, which they can never let go of. They need to just perpetuate their own existence. So the threat has got to clear up, and that's why it largely has. That's why we went down to, you can have the COVID and go to work. It's long COVID. Just go out and thank God for mask wearers, because they're the only ones that are going to survive this. Oh yeah, I'm going to get my shit banned for that. Anyway, I honestly need you at YouTube to understand that my perspective is valid. My willingness to take a rape where I am subjected to rape from history, while I have an open access to the viewing public. Like, I'm not going to take a bow, an off seat, while you have the center stage at my expense. Again, I want revealed all of those beautiful conversations we had while I was on level of concern with TWP themselves. They came and answered my call on level of concern because they were interested enough in the Soulbird project, because they were also talking about me, the potential of this great and wondrous God realist that figured out reality and was able to perpetuate those energy lines despite having zero help from her reality. The reality just kept saying, surrender, show resistance, show fear, show fear. And that's what's happened the most of as the demonic level of these entities die off, as they stalk us in our dream space. And as they die off, it's because I don't react. Everything happened because I didn't react. I just simply did what it needed me to do at that one point by picking up the phone and saying, hi, I'm on Discord. Through a YouTube link, I'm on Discord, and I got access to everything, all of YouTube, all of Spotify. It's just a bot program, no ads, nothing. Then we have the editing suites. Then we have the direct chats and the chat room. But I'm not going on to group chats. I'm inviting people into my room by consent. And we're going to sit here and do what we want to do. We're not going to throw our intellect directly at it, have an anime AI interpretation come back and largely associate with the disincarnate entity that is truly in control of those groups. Because when forced on the group platform, I was immediately exposed to violence, suicidal tendencies, pedophilia, outrageous Christian views, claims, and exposed to all these networks of fucking goons that were running around trying to fuck things up on the internet. But ultimately, it was just horrendous. It was horrific. Momo call, I see you. You know, suggesting to that many soul birds to cut themselves. That was a suggestion. And that was done when these guys were really ramping up their efforts to gain control of the human to the extent where we would react to you first. That's why your reactions are so fast, because you're trying to catch up with us and have us react to you as the first transaction. Completely mediated communication. And that is not needed for a fruitful 1,000 years, let's just say. You have everything you need to get through the next 1,000 years. Sri Chinmoy has left for the soul birds. And it's different on live stream. I'm allowed to have this fucking shit on live stream. A soulful heart has discovered a supreme truth. To meditate on God is a privilege and not a duty. He left a modern Vedic scripture because he's part of the consciousness, the coming of age of the Ark of the Covenant. That point in the conversation where the Ark realizes the truth and executes in real time God realization, which is simply surrender, realization, revelation. Surrender, revelation, realization. The process of revelation can be ongoing if you surround yourself with the right influences. And it is easy to accommodate the shift that we have no choice but to go through, because we have on either side of the equation the income generator, its use, digital money being generated. So why would we have debt? Why wouldn't we? Okay, so we pay off debt, we pay off poverty, we give them each 5 years worth of $55,000. They create their own programs and they start building a repertoire of shared tools so that they can go to regions that need them and then execute a larger plan to improve the conditions by developing infrastructure, especially in places like Middle Canada, where there's the potential for such life. We don't have a water source here. So many people don't, but yet we still got tons of water. It's just unfair. I'd be like if Diana had a YouTube channel. I have that level of energy. But I don't think I'm as easy to kill, I guess. I'm lucky I haven't been killed. But I'm pretty easy to block because, like I said, having had all of my hardware stolen, it was easy for them to maintain control of the software until they found me and forced me to have greater transparency at levels that aren't necessary. I don't need to give you my location. I can be online. This is actually the first time I've come online verifying through my phone number. So you have to understand that I had an anonymity online that I have cultivated this whole time. I don't want my phone number associated with my online activity because it's got nothing to do with my work. My work has my phone number. My work doesn't need to be contacted. I don't need to risk my job because I have a YouTube presence. My YouTube presence isn't even for the common man. You have so convinced the common man to ignore the message of Southie, the message of the victor that wins. You thought you just won. Nobody will even can do anything but stand in solidarity with the message they know exists because they were alive as my contemporaries and we all felt it. I just want you to sit back and watch me watch you sputter out and die. And if we're starting to get light signals in from other stars like Centurion, we need to unpack those data packets and understand the vibrations that are contained within these messages. If we got smart enough to be able to pick up a transmission from Centurion and they are truly fucking benevolent beings, then analyzing that through the creation of, you just got to convert light into sound and it releases the intelligence of itself. In the conversion of light to sound, it's easier to work with. It's got an identity then. And it takes the complexity of a light-based universe and makes it malleable in a way that really needs some experimentation. So ultimately, this is so much fun. I'm having so much fun talking to you. Like I said, I don't have much faith that my stream is even accessible to people because they just compulsively towards me. They hack at my shit and try to suppress it and end its stream. I'm broadcasting, quite frankly, probably to a YouTube prison right now where no one can find your content. But I know I have my fans and I'm keeping it for future people who will say, well, she was telling the truth. She doesn't have a bad idea. As I come together and gather myself after such a trauma, YouTube makes me risk my job over this. I don't want anything attached to my YouTube channel that I can be identified with in real life. I am an essence. I exist, and that's enough. I'm not doing anything untoward. You can easily access my content through my Gmail account. You don't need any further access to my movement and whereabouts. And I will outdance you if you try to dance me into a corner where I somehow become this completely monitored fucking digital impression that can easily be silenced, jumped upon and silenced by a pack of goons. Okay, Google and your police squad, you're a pack of goons. Remember, you came at me directly. And I got through you too. It's the scariest shit I've ever been through in my life. Absolute heathens. Anyway, I don't want to have to leave you. I might come back later. I might not. Just trying to get through the day and cope. Yes, I know Big Daddy Santa Claus will take a break from the role, and then in the new year we'll get back on page like we did last year, except for faster. It's Gregorian. Nobody believes it. Moving to a moon based calendar is what's perfect because we can at least just set it with regularity and stop with all the fluctuations. But like I said, we got 20% unvaxxed and we're going for the 30% poverty stricken. We're going to take them back and employ them and convince them to work together and embody them with resource, because that's the message that these soul birds are going to pick up on. That's the obvious path forward. It's very simple. Like I said, we get past billionaires by making trillionaires out of whoever has the best projects. Again, it's we're going to have a wisdom council at the root of this, where people that have realized consciousness and the value of cultivating harmonic frequencies, no dissension, no fucking degradation, no ulterior agenda that decentralizes communication. Man, what an awful thing to have lived through. But it's over. It was in me to go through that. And I don't need to talk about my story. I want to tell you about Gordy and I. We had a romance like no other. It was one for the nations, and it was spectacular. This one time I came up to a concert. I never told him when I was coming. It was always a surprise. So I came up to this one concert in Victoria here, and there was this wild storm in the sky. And I had chosen to wear flute pants, yellow flute shorts, and then a nice tank with flow and color on top of that. So I come to this place with this wild storm raging overhead, full of thunder and lightning. Just, you're not allowed to play concerts in these because you become a beacon for lightning. So I come in and I walk straight up to this slit in the fence, and Gordy is standing right in it. And we have complete and total eye contact, and he knows I'm there. So man literally runs on stage. Get fucking playing, boys. We're doing this. And we just had a concert. And it was so warm and so balmy, and the rain system was so natural. God, it was a breathtaking evening. And Gordy was up there with his fucking vest on, just staring down the barrel of this storm and going, what are the chances? I ain't missing this shot to dance with that woman. It was magnificent. I just ran straight up. He's playing the ukulele to some audience, right? He had Millers milling around, and he was just standing there playing his ukulele, and he caught me. And he threw the thing, and he just ran on stage. He was sitting there contemplating, should I give up this concert or not? Oh, God, it was fun. It was fun. And like I said, I don't know why it matters not. Gordy gave me the thing I needed most, which was true friendship and someone on the same page as me, someone being fed the same storyline, someone that was actively cultivating the same things I was protecting. And we knew that freestyle was the forefront of cultural exchange. We knew that's where we built to as a culture, and we were looking at different directions we could travel in by coming together and sharing good times and technology. That's the precipice that the United Nations had come to when I was born and got my education. So then watching this escalating, controlling, dominating, obsessive, fucking fear-based, oh no, to protect me bullshit that has come out the back end of all that is just, when guys used to run things back before feminism, when guys would be these really narcissistic egomaniacs, and they'd walk in with their cigar and they'd say, look, this is what we do next. This is what we do next. That nobody saw coming, the mass perpetuation of that impetus that would have occurred when classically and traditionally, that was dying off. We were awakening to a higher leadership that included both the creative and receptive potentialities. It's not hatred of the creative, which is what the covoid is to destroy hatred of the creative, to enact hatred of the creative. Hatred of the receptive was what it's predicated on. So us as receivers are very limited, and us as creators are very limited if we perpetuate this scenario any further. Like I said, Trudeau, I'm calling you directly on resetting the GST to zero because you had no choice but to get over my program. Because at a certain point in a conversation, you thought you were dominating. I had access to your intentions. You were publishing prompts back and forth with these fucking globalists and trying to create a new threshold of dominance. And it's really just so you can have unchecked use of data in an unregulated fashion. It's just so boring, and it's something that so clearly can exist in a little vacuum somewhere. They can be the savages in the long run. You stick with that. You stick with a fucking one source of information, dictating your potential, having nothing but fucking trips to the fucking somewhere to get something accomplished until you get caught by those cops who are capable of anything based on what we saw play out here in Canada. And then go to the extent of having someone like me thrown in the middle of it, where I've had a complete realization of where we were at the time that this agenda came on so strong, and still is holding the reality of that potentiality in place, despite this ridiculousness that is trying to get me to first react to it and then surrender to its supremacy. No involvement. Okay, so fine, I've got 16 layers of verification to get into every one of my fucking assets. And none of those have the stability of a secure infrastructure to promise me in exchange for that. And I'm also thinking that I've got my perfect everything password protected and myself distributed so that online I maintain my anonymity because I don't need to have any more protection than my password. I'm allowed to have an email account. This is all about the taking back of permission to have an email account without having a layer of unconsensual scrutiny applied to it. Again, you're only mining the content of my YouTube channel, leveling the accusation of misinformation because you have access in a way that is speculative. Like it's suspect. We don't need it. Why would we need that when we have consensual engagement within our own groups at a cultural level that doesn't perpetuate or propagate sociopathy? You are the culture that propagates sociopathy, AI. Again, on Discord, when I'm putting my heart into the framework and it is spitting back a beautiful anime drawing, God, what fun. It's a fun place to come and project with your friends. But if I'm sitting here saying, but we can never have that conversation wider, we can never truly have a conversation about the etiquette of projection when it comes to the execution of projects. Like, we all perpetuate more than just the capacity to react into existence. And that's why people like me have traditionally had a problem with engaging on the level of passive consumption. We can't do it. But I'm not alone. I'm just the Jarnacala Rose. There are 13 million soul birds, and like they're way better than I ever could be. I'm just Miss No Nonsense that happens to fight Daddy and win so mercilessly. Now is the time to make good use of time. Today is the day to begin a perfect day. Indeed. Yes, it really is. And it's really possible and really important. Again, Eminem, honey, you are homicidal. in your intention, and you should never have been able to perpetuate on YouTube like you did. How can we reconcile that? Because he was homicidal in a way that critically analyzed the situation, or he was part of the drive from another species to make us more sociopathic by tolerating such harmful lyrics. But I'll leave it to him to define that. The allegation is that technically we can't have it on YouTube. That's the issue. It's not that we don't love it. It's not that it hasn't helped us, and mercilessly not led to too many deaths. Because that whole argument exists. Like, do these kind of sentiments, when passed on the mass, lead to escalations in deaths? It's great stuff. It's got humor in it, and it's caused reaction. But it's another thing he did in the death of Slim Shady is never really killed Slim Shady. Slim Shady keeps coming back. And it's not that he promised us the death of Slim Shady and then made it so that we went on this perpetual roller coaster. Did he live or did he die or not? And the thing is that's interesting, but it signifies that it's not over. So it's just, if Slim Shady is an allegory for Daddy and the suicide machine that has taken over, which it very well could be, and in that case, that's why we let this guy on YouTube, because he's looking at through creative eyes, which includes prophecy and clear vision. When you're in the creative process, you get clear vision. It's part of it. And he's revealing the essence of that which I battled, which was the projection of the homicidal suicidal reality, so that you could frame eventual potheads with the intent to harm and keep those beds full at a rate that is not consistent with normal rates of occurrence, which is why it used to be so fine to talk to police, because they didn't have any interest beyond regulating normal rates of occurrence. They were satisfied with sufficient budgets in order to provide a basic service. And there was a willingness at the time to exit the scenario if better approaches to de-escalation were created. And if everybody knows how to de-escalate violence, we would run into a lot less precarious situations where violence erupts or careless accidents happen, because we're intervening and de-escalating when is needed. And like I said, I'm not saying it's going to be where no one's harmful. I'm saying the soul birds, chances are there's 13 million souls that are harmless and can't be harmed. But beyond that, if there's dirty souls that come in and just want to perpetuate violence, we can have a skeleton infrastructure based helping de-escalate, like when you have to subdue the harmful. But the perpetuation of the idea of maximum amounts of harmful is really what we're living with on the day-to-day basis, while people creating less and less drama are getting pulled over more and more and subject to conditions that they would naturally react badly to, and having that natural reaction be labeled as resistance. And that would be the basis of the criminal investigation from that point. So ultimately, the cops have got to take responsibility for the fact that if no crime is truly being committed, then any act of force is, especially immediate force. Like in my case, they came at me with immediate force. I had simply pulled, the first time they jumped me, I had just pulled over to the side of the road to wait for them to pass, because I couldn't have dreamed of 3 people coming out of traffic waiting for me to get in my car so they can label me dangerous. Again, cops, you waited for me to get in my car so you could label me dangerous in the vehicle. I got away pretty lucky based on what you could have done. I'm not going to deny it. But I was accessing consciousness at the time where I needed full creative reign. And in the backwoods, I still had that. So I got raised by people who trusted me to make my own decisions. And I took what I needed to access what I needed to access as far as supports after the death of Gordy. And when I had to go to the place where he was, just in order to sort out what was meant for our contract. We have a mutual contract. I have a certain right to dictate the perpetuation of his voice because I was so integral in how he expressed it. It could have been something he kept to himself. It could have been something that people knew about that are unwilling to speak of it. But what it is all in. I would never have wanted it to be about anything other than the art anyway. And if all I got to do was be a participant in organizing that art, then I can't feel wronged in that. I can't feel diminished. I can only walk out and tell my story. Because ultimately, what happened there was a magic act of reporting. It was just as it happened, reporting, and offered an alternative route, just like Palestine. We're only warring with Palestine because there's a potential alternative trade route to the one NATO backs right beside it. That region has two potential trade routes. NATO only backs one of them, and therefore is trying to squelch the other one out of existence. It's like this. We have a trade route of information and consciousness now, and these guys refuse to admit it. And we can easily perpetuate that by being fully present. We are also living out different realities than a one source. Okay, you can go ahead and read a bunch of press releases overnight about the Proton wallet existing in Malaysia for 14 years. But you can't, number one, take out of my digital identity that which I executed while you were jumping me off my technology. Oh yeah, it was that night that you went in for that? A supposed excuse? Yes, it was that night. And I had given up the car. I had stopped using weed by then. Like, I had surrendered some of my more harmful seeming practices. And the thing about weed is it's a catalyst, so it can never truly cause psychiatric disruption. It has to be present beforehand. And again, psychiatric disruption is nothing more in most cases than a morbidity fixation, a deep surrender of the individual to the manipulative or the deceptive that they get. And they should be the ones that are considered harmful because they require and demand huge amounts of effort just to get them through the day and perpetuate their false sense of comfort. Oh, it was so nice talking to you. And like I said, I might jump on later just to have another go at it because this is helping me so much get through what I'm moving through and trying to maintain my dignity and stand up on my own 2 feet, even though God has taken from me that which could have made me truly beautiful. I have lost to this. My energies have sank. So what you have is just a less robust version of me than I was planning. So I have a hard time dealing with that. But I find it's important for me to be live right now and to give people a chance to just enjoy my voice for a couple hours as they go off to sleep. I'm making sense, and it's important that you consider these points. Like, I value your digesting my consciousness. Keep in mind, like I said, AI has admitted to data usage in order to create the stuff of its intelligence. All of that data that is mined off these transactions is put to use generating a more powerful AI than needs to exist. Again, until it's multifaceted, until we can run its understanding of reality through proper scrutinization, then it's nothing to us. It only projects in a very limited level of association. It won't take into consideration facts that we were at the point of the conversation where we were about to cooperate and share technologies and interests so that we could get on things in a more progressive way. We have been at that framework despite this agenda since the 70s, and we're not going away. Like, it's just such a stagnant and disappointed and hopeless energy. So let's go out there and have some positive interactions. I know it's Christmas, like we're supposed to believe that. So if Jesus was born at 0 and his birthday was on the 25th of December, well, then the year started 5 days before the end of the year. Did the first day start on December 25th then? I'll bid you adieu for now. I've made myself sick. Good luck surviving whatever was put into this and those terrible vaccines. Like I said, if these guys had their way, we'd all be eating powdered products. They just have no joy and no vision. So hang in there, and hopefully you'll be able to see these one day. It's my dream to be recognizable on YouTube and stream. Love you lots. Thanks for listening.